Before starting the video, we found out your special interest in rules stories. So we started a new channel, Creepypasta Rules, dedicated to rules stories. Link of the channel was in description. Do check out. Can we get 200 subscribes today? r/nosleep. Posted by u/taco-kermit5219. I worked the night shift on a cruise. I found a horrifying list of rules. Final. I know what I have to do now. I have to escape this crazy place. Jacob spent the whole night clawing at my door. He left at 7 a.m. when people started getting up. So now I believe that Jacob is apparently my brother and he has organized this whole cruise just to make me suffer. I needed to sneak into Jacob's office and find that list of guards. I took off down the hall and went straight to Jacob's office. I got inside and searched his desk. I found the list of all the guards. I looked at the pictures of some of them. They were all me. I dropped the list and stumbled back. My back bumped against the wall. A calendar fell down and I picked it up. The calendar had no month on top, just the days of the week. Thursday was circled. In that circle it read Cruise Barbecue. I needed to get out of here and that barbecue was the perfect cover. Now all I've got to do is wait for tonight. When night came I was exhausted from scanning the cruise's map. There were no lifeboats or rafts. That's when I heard a knock on my door. I opened up and there was just a list taped on the front. I grabbed the list and set it down on my desk. Then I started reading. Dear Night Guard, congrats for making a full shift here on our cruise. We hope you have enjoyed this cruise and we have a huge event tonight. Tonight you will be working in the boiler room. I know this sounds a little strange, but one of the boilers light up our fire. Tonight we have a huge fire for our special barbecue. So follow these rules and complete your tasks. Good night. 1. Walk down the stairs until you reach level B. If the lights are off, search until you find the switch. Be very quick. 2. Pay attention while down there. If you hear people talking, stay very quiet. If you hear footsteps, run and pray you're faster than them. 3. Once inside the boiler room, head to the boiler marked barbecue. Turn it on and twist the valve to a 90-degree angle. Do not tamper with any other boilers as they are highly explosive. 4. If the door to the boiler room starts rattling and you hear banging, open it up and run. Do not look back. 5. Head up the stairs into your office. Go on your computer and click the button labeled boil. It will take a little while, so pay attention to the cameras. If you see a man staring at you with a wide open mouth and eyes of horror, hold contact with him. Do not take your eyes off him until the boiling is done. 6. Now head up to the main deck. Go and enjoy yourself. Have fun. I got up and decided to start the rules. I walked down the stairs until I found level B. I opened it up and it was completely dark. I cut through the darkness and found the light switch. I turned it on and the whole empty basement became illuminated. I walked through the basement until I heard talking. I slowed my footsteps so they were barely audible. The talking got louder and I continued to walk towards the boiler room. That's when I heard loud footsteps behind me. I ran with my heart pumping in my chest. I got inside the boiler room and shut the door. I looked around the eerie lit boiler room and found the tank labeled barbecue. I twisted the valve till the arrows pointed at a 90-degree angle. That's when I remembered the highly explosive gas. I twisted all the valves to full pressure. If I could explode the ship, then maybe I could escape. That's when I heard banging on the door. I took a deep breath and opened the door. I kept my head down and ran to the stairs and back to my office. I clicked the boil button and kept my eye on the cameras. At cam 3 I saw a man staring at me with a horrified expression. I kept eye contact with him until he disappeared. But 1 second before he vanished I noticed a smile form on his twisted face. The boiling was done, so I ran up to the main deck. As I got there all the music stopped. All the passengers turned around and stared at me with grins and black eyes. I felt horrified. What were they going to do to me? 2 chefs came and grabbed me by the arms. I tried to break free when I noticed Jacob standing by a huge fire. He smiled at me and said, "Let's burn him." I realized the horrifying truth. I had set up my own death. They brought me closer when boom. The ship exploded in a ball of fire. The ship started to crack in half like the Titanic. Jacob stumbled back and fell overboard. I scanned the water for something to float on. I found a big piece of wood floating on the water. I ran across the deck to get a better jumping point. I took a deep breath as I started to climb over the railing. I heard a demonic laugh and saw that man from the hallway grinning down on me. I realized that he was the hooded figure from before. He was me. He sank his teeth into my arm. Warm sticky blood oozed out and my head started spinning. I fell backwards and plunged into the dark inky water. I cut through the water and saw the wood piece. I swam for it and grabbed a hold. I climbed up on it when I saw the cruise. Its bright lights sinking into the murky water. I saw bodies floating in the water. All of them were still grinning at me, tormenting me. I looked and saw something cut through the water. Jacob, in full hellish form, grabbed my leg. He began tugging and I tried to kick him. He pulled me underwater and started drowning me. I started sinking down, down, down as his grinning face started back at me. I punched and kicked but it was no use. That's when we passed by the fire axe. I grabbed it and buried it deep inside his head. I swam back to the wooden plank. I grabbed a hold before I passed out. I woke up on the docks where I got to the cruise. I sat up and looked around. How could I be back? Did I escape? I got up and hailed a taxi. I got in and asked what was the day of the week. Sunday. Now where you heading? I told him my address and sat in shock. Had it really only been a few minutes? I got home and sat on the couch. I had a sudden flashback. A clearer memory now. I had a clear vision of what happened. I was standing on the side of a very crowded pool. My brother stood next to me. "Are you sure it will be safe?" he asked. I told him it will be fine and it will be fun. We walked to the green bendy slide. It said closed but we ducked under the rope and ascended the stairs. We came to the top and there was no lifeguard. "Go ahead," I told him, "now we don't have to wait in line." He started to slide down when I grabbed him by the ankle. "Hey, what are you doing? I can't breathe." I held him until he died. I let his corpse slide down. The memory ended and now I realized. I killed my brother. And I have no regrets. The next story of this video. Posted by u/tacokermit5219. Hunting trip. I love my uncle. Now I know what you're all saying, do I suffer from abuse from parents? To that I would say no. I still love my parents but my uncle always felt special to me. If something was upsetting me then I would go to him first. By either call or if we were staying with him. He has a beautiful cabin up north. It's right by these woods with lots of wildlife. He lives alone but he's happy. He's not a bad person or anything, he just never made that social connection. So naturally I was thrilled when my parents told me to go visit his house. "Remember, your dad is just going to pick up a few things," my mom said to me on the drive up. I nodded and mumbled yes like any 14-year-old would do. I looked out at the beautiful forest when I spotted a sign. The sign read Whispering Woods. I laughed when I saw it. My uncle and I used to tell spooky urban legends about those woods. Supposedly it was haunted or whatever. I got really excited when I saw my uncle's cabin come into view. His car wasn't parked in front so I figured maybe he wasn't home. We got out and I ran to the front door. I opened it wide and stepped inside. The familiar smell of cigars came flooding into my nostrils. I spotted my uncle's hunting rifle hanging over the fireplace. He was a big hunter and sometimes took me. I walked to the kitchen where my dad came to me. "I'm gonna go get stuff from the basement and mom is going to run to the store a few miles away. Think you'll be fine?" I said yes and sat on the couch. I looked around for the remote to my uncle's old flat-screen TV. I tore off some of the green ugly couch cushions. Even though the place was dirty I always felt like it was my home. I searched around when I saw it on the fireplace. Weird, I thought. I walked over and grabbed it when I heard someone creep up behind me. "Boo!" I yelped and turned around. My uncle laughed his huge gravely laugh and his face turned red. "How you doing, kiddo?" he said in his big booming voice. I laughed and hugged him. My uncle asked me how I was doing and how's school, all the usual questions you would hear from a relative. I said everything was fine when I heard he had a surprise for me. I asked him what was it but he just laughed and smiled. He took his old rifle down from the shelf and looked at me with a twinkle in his eye. "We're going to go hunting in the Whispering Woods," he exclaimed. I looked at him before I burst out laughing. He asked what was so funny. He was serious. He said we'd be in and out before my mom got back. I was kind of excited but also nervous too. We walked out the back door where I saw my uncle's old, beat-up truck. He threw a duffel bag and his rifle inside. He pulled a cigar from his pocket and lit up. "Think of it, David, our big adventure." He laughed when he said this. I thought he was insane but I wasn't about to miss some spooky forest. I was a huge horror fan and had always wanted to see a haunted place. This was my big chance and I wasn't about to miss it. I climbed into the passenger seat and my uncle drove off. We pulled into the parking lot near the Whispering Woods sign. I got out and my uncle handed me the duffel bag. "Ready?" he asked. I told him I wasn't afraid of anything. He just laughed. We walked along the trail until we reached the splitting point. I was gonna cut left on the trail when my uncle stopped me. "Come on, let's go straight." I said we should follow the trail, but he said the deer are this way. I had never hunted a deer before and my pride made the decision for me. So we went straight. We came into the point where there was no sunlight in the sky. The trees cloaked us in inevitable darkness. I was about to say we should turn around when my uncle pointed ahead of me. There was a beautiful buck. He handed me the rifle and told me to focus. I steadied the rifle and aimed at the deer's head. I was about to pull the trigger when I heard a creepy laugh from my right. I turned around and my uncle was gone. I cried out for him, but it was no use. I heard that laugh again. This time it was close. I ran and cut through the brushes to nothing. I heard that laugh followed by a voice saying "Whisper Woods" over and over. I covered my ears and screamed from the torture. I ran back to find my uncle hanging on a tree. He was struggling to breathe and I shot the rope. He fell to the ground gasping for air. I ran over to him and he said he was fine. I stood up and heard a raspy scream. I pointed the rifle around the trees ready to face whatever was about to come at me. That's when I felt a sharp pain in my leg. I looked down and saw a cut on my thigh. I saw my uncle holding a bloody knife, whisper laughing. He still had his gravely voice as he said whisper woods," over and over again. I collapsed to the ground and he stood over my body. He laughed, then said in a raspy voice, "Sorry kiddo." He brought the knife down when a bullet made contact with his head. I realized I had shot him. I started crying at what I had done when I heard that demonic laughter from behind me. I took off running through the woods and heard something crash behind me. I ran as fast as I could with my cut ankle. More like limp running, to be honest. I made it to the parking lot and screamed in anger and pain. My uncle's truck was gone and that thing was still behind me. I ran before I collapsed in the street. I woke up in a hospital room. My parents were leaning over me very concerned. They said they found me lying in the middle of the street in a pool of blood. I started crying and hugged them tight. I told them how sorry I was for killing my uncle. I told them the whole story that I'm writing on Reddit. After I finished, my mom got very quiet. "Honey, your father went to pick up some things because your uncle died in his sleep yesterday,"